Why we are spiritual creatures. So this sermon is directly tied to a book group. It's a book I found last summer and just loved, and I couldn't wait to share it with you. So I just want to do a kind of a public service announcement this morning, because I'm hoping that if you're not planning to participate in the book discussions that are about to happen in the next couple of weeks, maybe hearing it today, you'll at least maybe read it, maybe at least come and listen to what other people have to say. So the book, I have a copy of it here, The Awakened Brain, The Psychology of Spirituality by Dr. Lisa Miller. And there's a couple of opportunities to join it and in the discussion. So next Sunday here at Open Circle is the regular Sunday for the book group, and it starts at 1:00. And the neat thing about Open Circle, when they do their book group, they always have a Zoom connection. So I know some of the folks from Point Zoom in, but anybody's welcome, of course. So to get to that, if you just do OCUUF, Open Circle UU Fellowship.org, and their calendar of events, you can get to the Zoom link and join in on it. Then the following Sunday on the 17th, when I'm up at Green Bay, they're going to have the same group at noon there. They're not Zooming it out. And if there's a lot of people that neither of those work and want to have another one, just get a hold of me and I'll set up a different one that's virtual only. I can do that from my office at home, even if it's snowing. So hopefully this brief overview will spark some interest. So first, I need to start with some background on Dr. Lisa Miller. Lisa Miller is a professor in the clinical psychology program at Columbia University Teachers College. She holds a joint appointment in the Department of Psychiatry at Columbia Medical School. She's the New York Times best-selling author of The Spiritual Child, as well as this book, and founder and director of the Spiritual Mind-Body Institute, the first Ivy League graduate program in spirituality and psychology. So the book, it was interesting to me because as a Unitarian Universalist, spirituality and science usually aren't mashed together in one thing that you can read. So that spawned my interest in the first place. But within the first 20 pages or so, she describes this aha moment that just sucked me in. I couldn't put it down. So let me briefly describe it for you. At the time, she was doing an internship as a psychologist at a psychiatric inpatient unit in Manhattan. She called it Unit 6 in the book, and she describes 6 of the patients there who are all Jewish. She said that in this unit, everybody was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder. In addition, they also might have bipolar or major depressive disorder. So folks that have a really hard time functioning in the general world. She starts the story by saying the group had come and everybody was not very participatory. And then the director of the wing came in and sat down and informed to everybody that a longtime patient who was also a Holocaust survivor, had died by suicide. And the residents were obviously shaken. But then nothing more was done. And she was a little puzzled by that. And she talks about at the time that, and this is in the 90s, that basically it was all about prescribing medicine all the time and not really trying to talk with the folks and helping them to cope with whatever was troubling them. Well, at some point, one of the patients realized the time of year and kind of said, is there going to be any observance of Yom Kippur coming up next week? And they said, well, no, nothing was planned. Now, Dr. Miller grew up Jewish, but was not a practicing Jew at the time, but she obliged and said, okay, I will plan something and bring it next week. And so she dug out her grandmother's prayer book and did her best from her memories. Well, something happened at that little Yom Kippur ceremony. She had this observation that each patient somehow came to life in a very unexpected way, as if something had miraculously lifted them, at least for the moment, out of their usual manifestations of their illnesses. There's a quote, "It wasn't just that they appeared uplifted by the ceremony, It was that each person was more connected and restored in exactly the place where they were habitually cut off or occluded. The ceremony seemed, with laser perception, to have brought light into each person's darkest corner in the way that they needed it. Well, as a clinician and scientist, this really lit her up because she was so surprised. And she said she needed to know what had really happened at that Yom Kippur ritual. And this set Dr. Miller on a lifelong research path, which was highly disregarded at first. She went to her supervisor and told her about it. And she said, well, that's really nice that they liked your little ceremony, but we don't do anything about spirituality here. It's not science. So she was going to prove them wrong. So for the next, I think it's about 40 years, she has a day job, but she did this also on the side because she needed to know what was going on and how to figure out how to talk about it. So in the book, there are sometimes very lengthy descriptions of quantitative studies and statistical analysis, which I kind of get into. And it was all to support her hypothesis that those who develop their spiritual nature are far less likely to suffer from severe depression. Now, she talks about spirituality and religion back and forth a lot in the book, but she does make a very clear distinction between the two. She said that organized religion can be spiritual, and the people who participate in it can be developing their spiritual nature, but you do not have to be religious to be spiritual. And religious in this case is defined as organized religion, more traditional religions. In fact, she found that in some cases, those who claimed a religious tradition but did not really develop it were no better off than those who had developed no spiritual development at all. Ultimately, she was able to conduct a controlled study of brain scans. So she was looking for cases of depression and then cross-tabulated with those who had demonstrated that they developed a clearly strong spirituality. And what she discovered is that there was proof that the brain is hardwired for spirituality and greatly benefits from it. Overall, she says, our study revealed that spiritual experiences are visible in the brain from an MRI in three significant ways, three different areas of the brain. I'm not going to go into the technical terms because I can't even pronounce them, but three areas. One, there's an involuntary reorientation of attention. Instead of just kind of having the monkey brain going on, it helps you organize your brain. And she said, it's essentially we see the world is alive and talking to us. The second area said it triggers a sense of love or embrace consistent with intimate attachment or bonding. Or said another way, we feel the warm, loving embrace of others and of life itself. And the third was, there's this sense of self that is both distinct and part of a greater oneness. We know that we matter, belong, and are never alone. So I found that fascinating that just by looking at MRI scans and comparing it to people without spirituality, she could see those parts of the brain really lighting up. And these were the implications of those parts of the brain lighting up. She organized it into saying that we essentially have two modes of awareness available to us at all times. She called them achieving awareness and awakened awareness. So achieving awareness, I'm sure we're all familiar with. It's the one getting your to-do list done, getting through your day, just the day-to-day kind of stuff that keeps us going. But awakened awareness is different. It's like this sixth sense, or paying attention to coincidence or synchronicity, which is a really big theme in her book, as if the universe is trying to tell you something. Now, Dr. Miller intersperses chapters of this dense research and the development of her hypotheses with very personal anecdotal experiences. And I'm not going to go into them here, but they were very interesting how she applied all of this heady stuff into her own personal life. She did not consider herself a spiritual person at all when this started out. But once she went down this path and saw where her research was taking her, she had her own experiences of awakened awareness. So that's kind of the end of the book review part. So why did this appeal to me? And why did I want to share it with all of you? Well, as I said earlier, I'm kind of a data geek. If I had it to do over, I probably would have started out in marketing research or something, because I love to see how people think and then try to make associations. So that was my interest in it. But then I wanted to bring it to you because I think a lot of Unitarian Universalists, as I've said before, struggle with the term spirituality and all things deemed spiritual. Somehow we kind of think it's fake or something. Dr. Miller actually directly asked this question in the foreword of the book. She says, so what is spirituality? What definition am I going to use for my research? She says this, many of us have had experiences which we might describe as spiritual. A moment of deep connection with another being or in nature. I hear many of you describe those kinds of things all the time. A feeling of awe or transcendence. An experience of startling synchronicity, or a time when a stranger showed up and did something that changed your life. A time when you felt held or inspired or buoyed up by something greater than yourself. A higher power, perhaps, but also nature or the universe, or even the surge of connection at a concert or a sporting event. A lot of us in the room were at the South Shore Chorale Christmas concert last night, and I had a few of those moments. And it's hard for me when I'm singing to stop. I get choked up, which people don't pay tickets to watch me get choked up. So that's always a problem. But it's that kind of thing where suddenly you feel very connected to 150 other singers and 50 folks playing in the orchestra, and then the 900 people that were watching it. Suddenly you just feel like you're all one. That's what she's trying to say. So these are definitions of spirituality I think Unitarian Universalists can easily wrap their head around and agree with. And then in addition, Unitarian Universalists, we have a bias towards science. We tend to believe in science and proving things, right? And in her scientific research, discovered that the awakened brain is both inherent to our physiology and invaluable to our health and functioning. And she says, when we make full use of how we're built, our brains become structurally healthier and better connected, and we access unsurpassed psychological benefits, such as less depression, less anxiety, less substance abuse, and much more positive psychological traits such as grit, resilience, optimism, tenacity, and creativity. So this is the sermon I'm using to kick off a month focused on the gift of mystery. I chose to hold a discussion about this book this month. Knowing mystery was our theme at the time. And I think many of us view spirituality as a complete mystery, or we're at least baffled as to its importance in our lives. So I didn't want to go into a lot of detail with the book. I just wanted to tempt you because I really would like you to read it, or if you don't have time, join with the group and hear what other people have to say. So whether you read it or not, or come to what your friends say, I think what she states seems related directly to our belief that all should have an opportunity to thrive. I hope you'll take away the conclusion of Dr. Miller's research. She stated this: each one of us has the ability to fully develop our innate capacity to live through an awareness of love, interconnection, and appreciation of life's unfolding. Through an awakened brain, we access the truest and most expansive reality, that all of life is sacred, that we never walk alone. Our brains are wired to perceive and receive that which uplifts, illuminates, and heals. So in our journey together this month, it is my hope and my intention to move beyond the mystery of spirituality and engage in it as fully as we can. Blessings to all of us on this journey. Amen.